bold journalism,
But Drew Hernandez is a strong-minded individual.
exposing lawlessness,
Hernandez, who is ideological,
finding the truth,
and use the word Antifa.
This is what they do.
Battling
They're
mainstream
liars. The woke mob, all they can do is lie.
These are the front lines.
What's going on, Thought Criminals? Welcome to Frontlines. I am your host, Drew Hernandez. I'm here with the great TPUSA contributor, host of Politics and The Spillover, powered by TPUSA. Alex Clark is here on the Frontlines.
I feel a little bit like not adequate to be here, but I'm very honored.
You can't talk like that, okay? You want to know why? Because one of our best episodes was literally with you and
Really?
I going over, like, is that really a woman or a guy? People love that
Oh,
stuff,
well,
dude.
thank you very much.
Okay,
I'm
so
glad.
I can't let you degrade that because that's your great work.
Thank you.
So John Fetterman, Fetterneck, as we call him, has been named 2022's most stylish persons, or one of the most stylish persons of the year.
Literally, the New York Times called Senator John Fetterman one of the most stylish people of 2022. The guy that looks like he's going to steal the moon.
Him or the neck?
Well, that's what I said, because you know that thing. I think it whispers to him at night, tells him secrets. I think that people like speculated that his wife was running his campaign. I think it was the neck boil.
Is it actually Neuralink?
It might be. So,
It's like a beta version.
well, here's
It's
the
Elon
thing.
Musk's beta version of Neuralink and John Fetterneck.
Yes, that's the guinea pig. And my favorite thing about the New York Times saying that John Fetterman was one of the most stylish, I'm like, okay, if you find any person on the street that, you know, is very apathetic about politics, they don't know how they, if they, you know, really consider themselves to be on the left or on the right, and you tell them, hey, the New York Times said this, though, you cannot deny that ish is rigged. You cannot deny.
100%.
We had Melania Trump, a supermodel in the White House as first lady. She didn't get one fashion magazine cover, and the New York Times is going to say that the guy that ripped off his signature style from Adam Sandler is the most stylish? Explain that to me.
Alex, it's so insane. I mean, you're in the world, you know, with politics and pop culture, and you see the reactions from people. I see two different reactions. I see actual real savages like, what? What do you mean the most stylish person? New York Times, what are you saying? And then there's like NPCs that are like, he should be president.
Well, they do say that about him or Governor Newsom. So they're not sending their best.
No.
But again, if Fetterman ever runs for president, will the ticket be him and Lynette? Will it be Fetterman Boyle 2028?
That's the next level. I didn't even think of that. I've just been saying I think Fetterneck's actually going to be the president. But no, the ticket will be, say it again.
The ticket for 2028 for the left will be John Fetterman and the neck boil.
Which one will be VP and which one will be running
That's
for
to be determined. Who is in charge?
I actually would say maybe the neck bulge will actually be running for president. And the body Frankenstein of Fetterman might be VP, running for VP. I
love
like
it.
that one. That's the new conspiracy. Our producer Braden's like, yeah.
This is the number one presidential prediction to come out of America Fest 2022. People sleep on me. Listen.
Okay, no, you can't sleep on Alex Clark, man. Honestly, I mean, if you're not watching politics, listening to Politics, The Spillover, you're not really listening.
Did you hear who my guest was this week on The Spillover?
Who did you have this week?
It was a woman who was married for 30 years to a pastor and then found out one day when the FBI knocked on her door that her husband was a pedophile and had been busted for child pornography and went to prison after 30 years of marriage.
What?
Yeah.
See, this is what people don't talk about a lot. Is like the pedophilia thing is like it's really widespread.
Oh, and
You
this
want
is
to talk
the
about
thing.
Hollywood and Balenciaga and the global cabals? And these people are like, it's a conspiracy theory. Are you serious?
It's
They're out
also
the
in
open.
every circle. Look, the left is very outward with it, with the drag stuff and the child drag story hours and, you know,
Yes.
castrating children and all that. Of course, the right talks about that a lot, but it really does know no political party. I mean, it is everywhere. It's
Yes.
your teachers, it's your coaches, it's your neighbor. It's really nasty. And so this woman's story, though, is incredible because imagine being married. Well, I mean, you're married.
Mhm.
You are married for 30 years and you have no
That's
idea
insane.
that she had no signs. He completely hid this, and she was totally blindsided and had to start her life all over. And they had a teenage daughter living at home. So
absolutely-
that's on The Spillover now, anywhere you get your podcasts.
You know, who is the one? There have been in Nickelodeon. You remember iCarly?
Dan Schneider.
Dan Schneider.
Oh.
How can people see what Dan Schneider did, look back on it, and be like, it's a conspiracy theory?
It's starting to come
Come
out a
on,
little bit.
dude.
It's starting to come out a little bit with Jeanette McCurdy's book.
Yes.
That was a New York Times bestseller this year, one of the highest selling books of 2022. She was one of the former lead stars on iCarly, produced and directed by Dan Schneider. He was the creator. And she talks about in that book how he would invite her to do weird wardrobe try-ons and different weird things like that. And of course, everyone knows he had a massive foot fetish.
Yeah, dude.
Wanted to take pictures of all of these kids' feet. He would write in the shows weird things to do with their feet. It was very obvious. And really what it comes down to is Ariana Grande ever going to get the balls to speak out on it? Because it hinges on her.
Yes.
She's the biggest star to come out of Nickelodeon.
And she knows what went down.
She knows.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
There was I forgot what the YouTuber's name was. You might know this, but she came out. She was like trying to be a child actor. And she said she auditioned for Nickelodeon and Dan Schneider multiple times. And one of the auditions that she did, she said her mom pulled her out and said, you're not going to be a child actor anymore, because one of the final auditions was, get the kids in here and take your shoes off and just get ready to do whatever we want you guys to do with your feet. And apparently the mom freaked out and was like, we're getting the hell out of here. And she's like an adult now, and she's like, at the time I hated my mom, but now that I watch iCarly and all this stuff, I'm like, oh my God, these guys are just like, have fetishes for children's feet. It's like if you got a foot fetish for adults, like, go do your thing. But it's like children's Nickelodeon, Alex.
The saddest thing is that you have parents of these children that become Hollywood stars, and they want the money and the fame as well, and they're getting that through their child. And a lot of them will turn away, and they will not face the music of what's happening with their own kids because they want the money.
They want the money.
And that's the saddest part. And that's the thing. It's like, technically, to me, I would consider that to be a form of child trafficking.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
right?
you're constantly dealing with Hollywood and your sphere of influence and talking with people. The child grooming, the child molestation stuff. I mean, you got Corey Feldman. The list goes freaking on with all these people that have come out and said there's something seriously wrong here.
If
kids get taken advantage of, how come no one wants to talk about it?
Well, nobody wants to talk about it because too many people are involved, and too much is at stake, too much money, and different things like that. And you'll be blacklisted, and you'll never be able to act
Harvey Weinstein,
again.
Jeffrey Epstein, Jimmy Savile in the UK. This goes on.
So I would say if you're a Frontlines fan and you like listening to Drew's show, and you're a great person to speak out against this. You really cover this on your show a lot. There is a free documentary that covers Hollywood pedophilia. It's called An Open Secret. It is a phenomenally well done documentary. The guy that his name is Gabe Hoffman, the one that directed it. He's also conservative, but he ended up exposing tons of Hollywood pedophiles and getting them. Exposing them with this documentary. Anyway, it's a phenomenal documentary. It's totally free. If you look it up, it's called An Open Secret. You would really like it.
There you go, guys. Check it out, Thought Criminals. We have to expose these global cabal elite pedophiles. It is imperative. They're everywhere. Like Alex said, they are literally in every sphere of influence, from education, so-called education, right? In the media, politics, Hollywood, the music industry. This is a huge problem that needs to be dealt with immediately. Alex, where can people follow you? Find your great podcasts and your shows. Let the people know.
Thank you. Subscribe to Politics on YouTube and subscribe to The Spillover anywhere you get your podcasts.
There you got it. I'm joined by the great Congresswoman-elect, right?
Yes,
Anna
elect.
Paulina Luna. Anna has been one of the people that kind of really opened up the doors for me. My first Turning Point event was because of you.
Young Latino, like 4 years ago, right?
Yes, Young Latino Leadership Summit. That was like 2018, 2019. Yeah. And to see your journey kind of go from where you were like leading, the Hispanic director of engagement for Turning Point to now actually becoming a Congresswoman of the United States, which is, as a Hispanic woman, is phenomenal. It's amazing. So congratulations. I know my wife and I were praying for you and rooting you guys on. So how is it, dude? Like, talk to me like Anna. Like, don't give me the Congresswoman thing.
So it's like when you're campaigning, it's kind of like you're kind of still in the activist. I'll always be, I think, an activist at heart.
Yeah.
Like Andy was laughing because I actually just sent my blowhorn to Washington, like in a box. Like I was like, I need this. I'm gonna need it for something. There's gonna be a protest, and I'll need this for something.
Yeah.
So, kind of switching over the hats to now being actually in Congress. There's a lot that you learn in regards to parliamentary procedure, but it's actually really important because you get an insider's perspective on how legislation is done, and really, I think what's fundamentally broken right now in Congress. The biggest thing that we're hearing right now is and this is what I really want to explain to the American people. So there's something that I learned about called the motion to vacate the chair. And really for 200 years, Congress had this motion that was put in place by Thomas Jefferson that allowed the conference to hold the speaker accountable. So if the speaker says that they're going to do something from a legislative perspective, if they don't do it, we can actually make a vote and remove the speaker.
Wow.
But Nancy Pelosi removed it. So now that we have the Republican conference and really that we're in control, we want to bring it back. And so that's what you're hearing a lot of debate on. But what I can tell you is there's a huge issue with special interest funding in Washington. And so to see that from an insider perspective, you then understand why certain bills have certain things in them. And I think that we need to get rid of that as a whole. That should be bipartisan.
So it's like not even politically led, it's financially led behind the scenes?
I'd say a lot. I'd say maybe like 50-50. A lot of pork is and stuff. You see that there's lobbyists. I try to not take, in fact, I will say this, I don't take pharma money at all. Like I made that promise to my constituents. And that's a personal decision that, we made early on. But I just think that if you're trying to serve the American people, then serve the American people, serve the people in your district. You don't work for Washington, you work for them. And more people should understand that. And
I wanted to ask you, we're in this kind of like climate where everything's like social justice and the black and the brown people are just victims and they can't really do anything, and you get people like yourself, Myra Flores, that get criticized in the media when they should actually be respected according to their little doctrines, right? So how has been your experience so far? Have you been received well, like in DC? Are people on the other side like, hey, we got a Latina here, a win for us? Or they're like, no, she's the wrong kind. How has it been?
I'd have to say with the media, it's kind of hit or miss. There was a couple of articles that came out because I'm one of the first minority women elected to represent my district, and then the first Mexican American woman elected in Florida to Congress. But it was interesting because they kind of don't really know where to put me, right? Like I'm not supposed to be conservative because I'm Hispanic, and yet if you are Hispanic and any bit not as progressive as they want you to, then you also kind of get canceled. What's interesting is that they wouldn't allow Myra Flores into the Hispanic caucus in Washington.
Yes.
And so I think as a whole, the one thing that I've tried to do is use my voice to help educate others into what's really is happening. But, the entire time during my election, I was basically freezed out by all media locally. And being that I'm a minority candidate, it was leftist controlled media, so that was weird. I was outspent 12-1, so $12 million was dropped into a super PAC against me, or $10 million and then plus $2 million cash on hand. So it's $12 million total, dropped into a super PAC against me. Obama dropped a robocall on me against me. And so these are all things they're saying that I was a pro-life extremist, that I was too supreme extreme. That was interesting because that in itself was a type of guacamole that they sell. And so that was right after the Nancy Pelosi comments calling Hispanics crop pickers, and then Jill Biden made the breakfast taco comment. So it was interesting. The media wouldn't report on that, and yet they were okay with either as a woman saying that I was crazy or an extremist, which is, according to them, sexist. Why would you even say that? And then you had these kind of racial undertones. But I never let that get to me. I actually just door knocked the entire time, and by the end of our election, I had door knocked over 50,000 doors. Me, my immediate team of 2 people, and then 4 or 5 volunteers every day for 6 hours a day.
Keep going.
Yeah, we made 89,000 phone calls, and that's the hard work that a lot of people, they think running for office is like just spending big money. It's not. You have to do the grassroots, and I'm still going to always be an advocate for that.
Well,
that.
you've obviously done it, and you've accomplished it. It's amazing. Did you ever feel like, because of all of that, like actually discriminated against from like these leftists?
Yeah, 100%. What was interesting is when I
like
first
as
ran,
a woman, as a Hispanic.
Yeah,
like
100%. They didn't do any of those stories reporting on my opponent, who was a man, a liberal dude, calling me, basically implying that I was crazy. They didn't do any reporting on the fact that his supporters were actually putting Nazi stuff on my signs, like legitimate Nazi stuff on my signs.
Trying to make it look like it was you were for it?
Trying to say that I was a Nazi.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was having supporters. I gave them footage of his supporters on his Twitter doing this, and they just completely blacked it out, didn't say anything. They tried to say that because I'm very big and actively talking about human trafficking that I was a conspiracy theorist, even though the State Department clearly doesn't put out conspiracy theories, that it's a known problem. And CNN just admitted, I think 4 days ago, that there's obviously an issue with border security.
Yes.
And so, you see, this is things that we've been fighting for over 4 years.
Yes.
And so you saw them really gaslighting. And then so I just realized the media's not going to be my friend. If I really want to make a difference, I need to go to the people. And now that I'm a member of Congress, if they try to say anything, like the Washington Post, I think it was doing some very skewed interviews of me. And I finally got to the point where I was like, you guys literally do interviews or stories glorifying a play that's soft on pedophiles.
Yes.
I have no comment for you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to deal with those outlets.
Well, it's for obvious reasons, too. It's like they don't really care about kids. They don't care about their innocence.
No.
They're willing to just throw these stories under the rug.
It's weird.
Right? So let's shift gears with what's happening with the Hispanic community, because I texted you when I saw that video of Chuck Schumer saying he wants to legalize millions of people in this country for the future. And he kind of added the comment because we might have a population problem, right? So when I saw that, I was like, dude, I gotta text Anna that, because this is what you said was going to come.
Yeah, I believe
very shortly. So what have you been seeing in DC with that developing?
I think that they created DACA in an effort to do this, because people in politics follow trends on population growth. Everything is about the data and the stats and what the stats say. So if you're tracking in 2016, you know this. We were projected to, Hispanic Americans were projected to be the largest voting minority in the country. 2018, you saw the upward trend. In 2020, it happened. And now in 2022, we are the largest voting minority.
We crossed that line.
Exactly, specifically of Mexican descent. When Barack Obama did that, if you can find clips less than 2 years prior to him doing that, saying, hey, don't come here illegally. We don't want you here. You're going to get hurt in the process. Then you saw that pivot and switch. He then tried to put it onto the hands of Congress to deal with. That was created in an effort,
That was
I
a
believe,
strategic
to do exactly
move.
what we are doing today. And we're talking about the United States. If you take, patriot viewpoints out of it, people look at the United States like a multi-trillion-dollar corporation. And so there's a lot of people that have an invested interest. They don't care about what happens to people. They care about money and power. And that's what you see happen in really the halls of Congress and Senate, and why we're having some of the problems that we're having today. So I believe that they had a long-term plan, that they're trying to target and manipulate the largest voting bloc. Now, what they don't realize, though, is people that have come here legally for second generation, they don't want illegal immigration. They don't want open borders.
Or they don't want socialism or communism.
They don't want that, which is why the Biden administration turned away Cubans that had general claims of political asylum because they were going to literally get killed in Cuba. He made them go back, and yet he'll take anyone who comes in through the southern border from Mexico. So you're seeing this play out, and I think that after what happened with Pelosi, Jill Biden making those comments, the American people are waking up. Hispanic Americans are waking up. So now what are they doing? They're buying up conservative Spanish-speaking news outlets. They have,
particularly in Florida, right?
in Florida, to hit the Cuban demographic that's faced communism. They're also too now making a massive effort with Facebook, a funded campaign effort. I think it was $200 million that they put into fact-checking disinformation online in Spanish.
Wow.
And so you are seeing them, because they don't know fully why, they don't understand why Hispanics are conservative. Faith-based is a huge reason, but also too when you experience communism and socialism, you don't want it. So I think that as a whole, many people have to get on board. Like, we are so underfunded and outgunned, it's not even funny, but our ideas are more effective, which is why we're still winning.
And they do a great job. I mean, and when I say that, I mean the left. They are very freaking good at their activism and engaging these communities, and it's why you kind of see the voting trends shift from here to there. But what do you see on the horizon, Anna, for 2023, 2024 in regards to the Hispanic vote? Do you think we're going to see more right-leaning voters, or I mean, the border's been open, wide open. Millions have been imported into this country. Are those going to be translated into leftist votes for decades and generations to come? What do you see happening?
I think that it depends on what we as Congress do. So if we don't actively take an aggressive stance against tech, big tech, and have actual people in jail for what they did with election interference in regards to suppressing information to voters, skewing algorithms. I mean, it's all there. There was a whistleblower that came forward. I think it was a watchdog organization on Google that said in 2016 that they were interfering with election being shown to voters. But if we don't get that under control, I do worry about 2024, because what we saw in 2022, a lot of people are like, why did we lose? Well, we still won, but look at what we were up against. You had big tech suppressing information and funding capabilities. So a lot of Republicans did not have the funding abilities. Like, I was outspent literally $12 million to one.
That happened in Arizona too with Blake Masters.
But also too, Google was suppressing and sending a lot of these fundraising emails to spam folders. So we could not grassroots small dollar fundraise, whereas the Democrats were on a regular basis and were unchecked and unregulated in that regard. Then you also saw that a lot of the voters that did show up in the midterms were Gen Z. And where does Gen Z get their information from? Social media.
TikTok,
so if
Snapchat,
they're suppressing information, they're only going to get one side. And of course they're going to think we're crazy because they don't understand the truth. And so that was the second thing. And then the third thing was you have activist attorneys that got involved with the redistricting and were saying that everything was literally racist and gerrymandered, quote unquote racist and gerrymandered, if it was a congressional district that actually represented the population of the region. And so in every state but New York and Florida, that really happened and impacted the congressional map. So this is a long-term plan. We'll be with these maps now, the congressional maps, for the next 10 years until the next census. But I think if we take back tech, that we can pull it back a little bit. I don't think anyone could have anticipated after 2016 that it would get this bad with tech. After President Trump was deplatformed, it's scary.
Yeah.
We're seeing with Elon Musk, God bless him, but like, my goodness, I don't think anyone anticipated on it being this bad with the Twitter file drops. And now the question is what are we going to do about it? I think we need people like Scott Pressler. We need people that will actually, you know, get out there and get involved in regards to doing the activism that we need on behalf of the RNC and conservatives. I really like Harmeet Dillon. I think that she's great, and I think that that's the type of leadership that we need.
You know, guys, that is a really great answer, because I asked that question and a lot of people give, you know, even elected officials like the standard answer, you know, but to hear that you really do have a view for the future, taking on some of these tools that these people use to manipulate minds, manipulate elections, is a really good sign. So, Congresswoman Anna Paulina, Luna, thank you so much for joining me on the front lines. Where can people follow you, follow what you're doing in Congress and everything you have coming up as well?
So you can follow me personally, see my viewpoints, what I have to say at Real Anna Paulina. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Getter, Parler, True Social. I'm everywhere. But if you want to get involved or find out more information about my campaign, voteapl.com, and then I'll have my official Congress channels up and running soon. But also, too, make sure you guys are tuning into Frontlines with Drew Hernandez. Been with this guy for about 4 years. He's amazing, a true patriot. Tune in.
Thank you guys so much. My name is Drew Hernandez. These are the Frontlines. I'll see you guys on the next one.
We must play offense. Game on.
You expect the rest of the world to live in La La Land. We're not.
We've been saying these things from day one.
Our solemn vow to you, be good, be brief, be gone.
You might find yourself changing your opinion on things you never even thought twice about. That really sets America apart.
You are not ready for season 2. This is Reloaded.
My life, tale, and my truth has been to fight socialism.
Are you familiar with structural racism?
Yeah, it's a myth.